Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Holistic Pillars. Today, I'm thrilled to invite and welcome back Amy Huebner, a sleep consultant from Hushabye Baby. This is part two, Amy. We first had you on a few months back. Actually, I'm just trying to think of when that was, middle of last year. And we talked about everything around the importance of sleep, a little bit of science you provided, how to settle our little ones, and you also ended up the call with a top tips on settling not only the kids but the family and the household and all that sort of stuff. So welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
There's so much to talk about, especially sleep, and it's a hot topic, and everyone wants to know how they can do it better and all of that sort of stuff. I think it would be good to do a refresher, apart from welcoming everybody to go back and look at part one, which was a really good chat. Can you just give us a little bit of background again for anyone watching for the first time on Hushabye and yourself?
Yep. So Hushabye was founded in 2017. I had a toddler and a little baby at the time, and basically just recognized everywhere around me. So with mothers groups, parents groups, sleep deprivation was top of the list without a doubt. So long story short, I ended up going down the route of learning a lot about sleep, what we need to be healthy, happy, what our children need as they grow. And I've been a sleep consultant for 7 years now, almost 7 years now. And over that time, my business has grown. I've worked with almost 1,500 families now. So it's been a bit of a journey, and I absolutely love helping the families almost restore harmony at home. It almost comes down to that, because essentially when children aren't sleeping, neither are the parents, obviously. So it's such a domino effect. So the whole family is really our client, and we really want to make sure that we leave families in a harmonious place and getting the rest that they need and deserve. So that's what we've been doing at Hushabye for almost 7 years, as I mentioned. I've grown my team. I've got a consultant who works with me now and another one coming on board. And the new, to complement our family one-on-one, we're bringing in another element to the business, and that is working with businesses who have a high number of working parents on their staff. So something over the years that has been crystal is the struggle that the parents are having when it comes to showing up, able to have the energy, even the health, strength to deal with work life as well as home life. So, and that's become hugely apparent to me. And as a working parent, I've lived it as well. When you're not sleeping well overnight and you have to show up the next day and give your all, it's incredibly difficult. And that is now one of the big focuses of Hushabye, to help those working parents get the education, the support that they need to get their little people at home sleeping well, therefore transferring to them and getting their 8 hours of sleep a night. So that's where we currently are in 2024.
2024. What a journey you've had. 7 years. That's amazing. I actually, being a strong corporate background for myself, and knowing the burnout, knowing that it comes from anywhere, and sleep's one of the biggest ones. And I don't know how. I mean, I work with a lot of people that, have little families at home, and they still do manage to show up, but there are signs that they're probably not coping.
Yeah.
Definitely signs. And we all don't cope at times for various reasons. And I think knowing that people have got little young families at home and trying to bring their whole selves to work is a big thing.
Yeah.
So
There's so many studies out there that one just recently done, families aside, around 4 to 5 people have noticed at least one day of their week is adversely affected due to lack of sleep. And you can imagine that would be even harder with young children at home. So it's definitely a struggle regardless of whether you have children or not, but the working parents are definitely much more affected, much more easily affected, and their numbers are higher in terms of struggle, really.
So I think it's fantastic. What you're doing is fantastic, Amy. I think it's much needed. How are you going to, let's talk about the how. How would you work with people in that working environment, and what are some of the benefits?
Yeah. So when you have a look at an employee that hasn't been sleeping well versus an employee that does get adequate sleep, and when I say adequate sleep, around 7 to 8 hours at every night, each night, is what fills our cup. We're firing on all cylinders. We're doing really well. If you're consistently getting lower than that, even a few nights of lower than that, to our bodies can feel like, so just say you had 3 nights in a row where you got 5 hours sleep. Pretty typical of a parent of a young child, for example. Your body almost feels like it hasn't slept for a couple of days. So the sleep deprivation is huge and often not obvious. It becomes obvious more so over time, but you've been struggling for a while before you even really recognize it. So what has been identified is when employees get this regular 7 to 8 hours every night, their creativity, their productivity, their health. So in terms of physical health, mental health, it's a lot more stable, and the outcome is quite vastly different to a sleep deprived employee. So if you think about that, if you think about, right, so the body's pretty depleted, it's not getting this gorgeous sleep that it needs each night, which is almost like a refuel. So if your body's not getting refueled each night after a full day, you're running on empty. And so what happens is poor health comes with that. There's studies on higher aggression levels, frustration. So even relationships at work get affected from that. But absenteeism is a huge one as well. They just literally can't show up. They're just running on empty. So what my aim, my goal is to help get rid of that as much as possible with the people that I work with. So I'm really looking to people that really value the health of their employees, have a high number of working parents as their staff. And my aim is to help educate them on how they can get that whole family, because that's what it's all about, sleeping well. So predominantly working parents that have basically newborns all to school-aged children is where our expertise lie. So coming into businesses and teaching them fundamental skills, habits, strategies where they can have their little people sleeping the best that they can, getting the goodness of sleep that they need, and also allowing them to get a good night's sleep each night. So it looks a little bit different. There's a few different options. We can be in person, we can be virtual, we can run tailored bespoke sessions. We've got lunch and learn packages that cover a big range of sleep habits and ages. And we also offer one-to-one support if that's identified as being needed, where families just need a little extra help at home.
I love this, because that was my next you've actually just answered all of my potential questions in your little chat there.
Feel.
And yeah, because it's more the program is in existence. It's been running for a while, like how you do your one-on-ones and working with
Yeah,
families. And I love that you would have this offering or a program for specific companies that have the number of people working parents. So that's fantastic.
yeah,
So you've got a program and it can be one-on-one, like you were saying, it can be virtual, it can be in-house, it can run for, I'm guessing, 1 month to 6 months or
absolutely. Yeah.
program.
We've got packages set up, but everything is tailor-made essentially, just like it is with our families. We're very holistic and looking at what that family needs as a whole. So our corporate packages wouldn't be any different. So predominantly it is working parents that have younger children at home, rather than their sleep alone. We're looking at the whole family in terms of all their sleep. So they're all getting the domino effect of the sleep.
I mean, and your specialty is children, but I'm
Yeah.
actually thinking it wouldn't hurt anybody to have a chat to you about sleep in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Maximizing your
I obviously, like, there's no avoiding it. I've learnt a hell of a lot about sleep in general. So I do have heaps of tips for adult sleep as well. But yes, our focus, our specialty is definitely pediatric.
fantastic. And I'm just going to ask you a little bit out there question. What have you actually not, like the people you've worked with in the workplace with children, and you've had run this program and you've worked with people, what are the noticeable changes in them? Like
Yeah. Okay. So
a bit of an example?
yes, I do. So I mean, it's not a surprise, not to me, because I've worked with so many families. I would say the large portion of the families that we've worked with are working parents, and it's a vast difference. Like I've even got my own experience as well, so I can kind of like I get it, I understand it, and the feedback doesn't surprise me. So basically, you've got these employees, these parents that are struggling. They're not even really sure how to address this. They've got children that are taking an hour to fall asleep. There's been studies on this. They had a study of 1,500 people where 34% of those people were having children wake multiple times in the night. Most of them were taking ages to fall asleep as well at bedtime. So if you look at that alone, you're dealing with, you're not having quality time for you in the evenings. That's been compromised. You'll be lucky to get a couple of hours to yourself, and that's huge. You've worked all day. Maybe you've even been at home all day with the children that day, and you've got a long drawn out bedtime, not this time to reset and spend time for yourself. And what tends to happen, right, is that you stay up way too late because you're like, I'm exhausted, but I need some time to myself. So you've got people going to sleep way too late, missing their sleep window. So when I say sleep window, their optimal time to fall asleep each night. And just a tip on that, it's between 10 and 11 for us, for adults. And if you fall asleep later than your optimal window, you're always going to have a rougher night, so a more restless night. So even just being having this routine where your child goes to bed easier, you're not a hostage, you're not in there for an hour, there's no nightly wakings, that alone will change everything that happens after that. It'll change your time that you've got to yourself in the evening, the peaceful overnight sleep, and what happens the next day. So equally, the adult is benefiting, but you know what little people are like when they don't sleep. There's more tantrums, there's more pushback, there's more upset. So all of that emotional side takes a toll on you as well. If you're not sleeping and you've also got a child that's not sleeping well and having to deal with that angst, everything's
Mm.
so much more difficult when you're sleep deprived, and it's the same for your child. So the change is immense. They don't only just notice changes in themselves, they notice changes like on childcare drop off or school drop off. There's a lot less anxiety around that, because what actually happens, and this is probably like not what people will kind of associate with working on sleep, but what happens as a kind of a ricochet effect is that little person's self-belief, ability to regulate, ability to soothe, ability to deal with what life throws at them is so much higher. So you notice their way of dealing with life on a day-to-day basis also changes. And
Mm.
therefore, you know what it's like. You drop a child off, they're upset. It's the worst morning. Like, you feel terrible. There's times you can't avoid that because children are growing up. There's separation anxiety is a real thing, particularly for the younger. So you can't always avoid it. But when you've got this, you're into this groove where you've got a well-rested child, you've got a full day of work ahead of you. Can you imagine the difference between dropping off a bawling child and as opposed to a happy child? So it's a huge effect. And so what happens is they feel, the adult feels better, the parent feels better, the child feels better, but the confidence that grows with both is huge. The parents feel so empowered and confident because they know how to deal with bedtime easily each night. They're not anxiously waiting, what's it going to look like tonight? They don't worry about wakes in the night. So that is so, it's like a total mind shift. And it takes them a while actually to believe that. They kind of almost have to see it for a period of time before they're like, oh, I am going to get this night's sleep every night. So it's immense, not only physically, mentally healthier, but also feeling more confident and empowered around how to deal with their families' sleep routines.
I love that you're providing the three C's, I call it: the clarity, the confidence, and then the calm. And that's all part of my program, creating the calm you crave. So it's like, how do we support people in the end game, in having that
Yeah.
existence for everybody? And I just
Yeah.
think what you've explained is fantastic around the strategies, and you're providing that the foundation, I guess, for them to have the building blocks to then go back to their families and start putting these strategies or processes in place
Mm.
to ultimately get that calm we all want,
I
and
know. Look,
confidence.
a lot of I've noticed over the years, there's been more diagnoses around ADHD, those types of uh, disorders, and a lot of those symptoms almost mimic sleep deprivation. So, particularly the parents that are dealing with those types of struggles at home, like you were mentioning the chaos to the calm. I mean, it's even more difficult when you've got children that do have these emotional disorders, that when they sleep well, even that element is reduced, so they don't have such a struggle, because sleep is a common thing with those children. It's hard for them to find sleep. There's lots of anxiety around sleep, lots of pushback. Um, really difficult kind of family dynamic
Mm.
each night when it comes to sleep. So having these good, because these habits are across the board, and even more so for parents of children with anxiety,
Mm.
even more so. So the there's no discrimination. Those strategies and those changes hugely benefit those families, massively change their experience that they've probably had for 6 to 7 years. So yeah, that's a big one. I'm
Yeah.
noticing a lot of rise in those types of things.
Um, I'm excited for the working parent who have those situations and that you can provide those strategies for them. Imagine them going to work, having the energy and having their,
I know,
you know,
yeah. And
the
having a good
vibrant.
drop off, and I
Yeah.
mean, that's another area that those children particularly struggle in. You know, even just focusing, listening on getting things ready in the morning.
Mm,
They do remarkably better when they've had a great night's sleep, as does the parent, because their tolerance level isn't zero when they got up in the morning, because they actually got a little bit of deep restorative sleep to give them the energy to deal with.
and those parents have also probably like got that little voice in their head saying, I've got to do all this, but then I've got to go and perform at work. And I think
Totally.
that's the hard stuff.
So stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's immense. And I just feel in general that we've got to look after these parents more, because majority of us need to work. It's just reality, and it's a juggle.
Mm.
And it's probably not. I mean, I've talked to quite a few business even lately, and a lot of their programs are lacking a sleep element. And sleep is vital. It's one of the main biological needs, and it often gets overlooked. And if you can tap into it, nurture it, the goodness that's going to come from those employees is only going to hugely benefit the productivity of the business, and just the, even the happiness level of the employee, the morale.
And then you're touching on my world, right? Because it then goes into team culture, team performance, you know, team morale, the whole thing, and it can stem from various aspects of everyone's lives, and children being one, and other aspects, you know. Amy, I absolutely love the work you do. I'm fascinated by it. You're passionate about it. It comes out, you know, in the way you talk, and your goals for bringing this to life. And I fully support you and think it's wonderful work.
Thank you.
Thanks again for a wonderful chat. Maybe we do part 3. We can actually talk more about sleep. I think
Always.
we always need it. But yeah, thanks so much for coming along again, and joining me and sharing your insights and wisdom and strategies. And I'll pop all the information in the link below of how to get in contact with you. And I'm guessing that can be through your website, through emailing you, through your socials.
Just book a free call.
Yeah,
Book a free call just to discuss where you're at, if you need some support, some advice.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks so much, Amy. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.